Hello, Ms. Kelly. Welcome. This is our first coaching session for the week. Just to let you know that whatever we talk about in this session is going to stay with us, and you're welcome to throughout the week. If you have more questions about what we talk about today, you're welcome to come to me about it. So, what's something that's been going on?
I've had a really huge challenge this week. I just got a new student, and the student is diagnosed as specific learning disability and emotionally disturbed. On yesterday, when I was
Please
asking
find
the
an
student,
interruption, Miss Morton. Please call an office. Miss Morton, please call the main office.
the student attempted to leave and run out of the school. So my challenge actually is, how do I get this student to behave appropriately when I'm not here? I can make sure that the accommodations and modifications are being implemented properly when I am in school, but on days when I'm out, like I was yesterday, everything seems to just fall apart. And so I've had several meetings with the gen ed teacher. I had several meetings with administration, and everybody signs off on all the documentations as if they understand what's expected of them, but there's no follow through. So I need some strategies that can kind of help them to ensure that they're following the accommodations and modifications.
So, as you're saying, that this new student you have is showing some pretty serious behavioral challenges,
Exactly.
and you're worried that when you're gone, that those challenges aren't going to be met at school. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly.
Okay, so who have you spoken with yet on the team about that? Who have you?
Well, I've spoken to the gen ed teachers. I have provided the gen ed teachers with the accommodations and modifications that were listed in his IEP when he transferred in the process of completing a new IEP within the 30-day period, which it's a requirement by the district, of course, now. And that's pretty much it. I don't have a BIP implemented yet. I don't have an FBA implemented yet. I'm just going based on the old IEP and the things that I've seen.
Okay, so let's backtrack a little bit. What would be your ideal situation? What is your ideal outcome for this student and for his behavioral challenges? So what in a week, if this was solved, what would it look like? What would success look like?
For this particular student, I would want him to stop attempting to leave school grounds. So that to me is the primary concern at this time, because it involves his safety. And so that would be the area that I would want to target first. And so if we could solve that in a week, that would be great. Do you have some ideas for that?
Yeah. So your team here is is gen ed,
Right.
You, and are there any other team members you can put on as far as my parents, or was that?
I probably could extend it maybe to our support teachers as well to help. But his mom is great. Like I spoke to her when they registered, and she's really good and forthcoming. She has no problem helping out. She said she can come in and sit in if needed. I didn't want her to sit in at first because I didn't want her to be as I didn't want him to be as dependent on mom, but I mean, that's an alternative we can look at.
It sounds like the entire team needs to be placed on one plan that everybody needs to be aware of at the same time. It sounds like.
Okay.
Does that and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like there are a couple of members on the team who have different ideas of what this student needs.
Maybe not different ideas, or maybe not the willingness to actually do it, or they don't understand the severity of the issues that he's having.
What needs to happen for them to understand what do they need to see or hear to let them know that this is a serious situation?
I think because they probably haven't had a lot of interaction with kids that are ED, maybe if we could get some type of presentation together, maybe from somebody other than me, because they just look at me like, oh, here she goes again. Where they actually describe some of the characteristics of students who are emotionally disturbed.
Okay, so you make a good point. So basically, the knowledge on ED kids is very low here.
Right. Okay. Because we actually don't have an ED class here. So in elementary, most of them are placed in an ED class, but this is this child's secondary. So that's how he was able to come here. So they just don't know what to expect and how to cope with them, and they do not listen to me.
Okay, so Ms. Kelly, it sounds like you're the expert on ED. So how feasible is it for you Do you think it would be more easier to talk to individual teachers about the specifics of ED, or have everybody come together for maybe a small PD about ED? What would be a better?
I think probably since you stated that everybody should be on one plan, and I think that's great because right now everybody's not on one plan. I mean, they have the accommodations and modifications, but we're not working together for a common goal, I guess. Maybe everybody's focusing on what goal affects their class versus how to better work with this child. So maybe we should do a PD together, and then after the PD, kind of discuss concerns, and then maybe you can stay there with us, and we can do a BIP at that time. Cause Mom, I'm sure she'll come and she'll give some feedback of how he's acts at home. And then it'll just be better when you're there because they get tired of me fussing like, oh, here she is again about her kids. It is blah blah blah. Here comes Miss Kelly. So, I mean, I think it would be better if I had that support because I know you've done other PDs with me and they've been receptive to the other things that you said, as far as different strategies for instruction with our kids with ADHD. When we talked about that earlier in the year. They've been doing that when we talked about the way assignments and tasks should be but the time frame for them. When I was telling them 10 to 15 minutes, they were like, no, they have to do this. But when we did the PD together and you were there and you presented, they were like, oh, Mr. McDonald said. So it kind of made what I said valid.
So it kind of sounds like our first step just needs to be educating or informing our team about ED. So I guess in the next, what is a good comfortable time span for you to maybe come up with some notes that aren't that will make teachers feel more comfortable about working with this ED student?
I have his IEP, but I'm still trying to track down his psychological and everything. So his mom is supposed to bring me up all the other documents that she has. So do you think maybe since this is our first one this week, and we'll probably, or do we plan on meeting again on Thursday like we normally do, Tuesdays and Thursdays? Mom said she's going to try to bring me everything that she has at home. So if we meet Thursday at the end of the day, if that's not a inconvenience, I can probably have some notes that are really specific to him, and we can work on the presentation.
Sounds good. That sounds good. Are there any other options that you think you can, any other options to solve this problem other than that first step? Do you see any other, or do you see any potential problems with coming to teachers with, some information about ED? Any potential obstacles?
I think that you can help me come up with a creative way to present it so they'll be receptive to the information. I don't think it'll be a challenge.
Okay. All right. So let's just review. So we kind of came up with that. The first problem is that our team is educated on ED,
right,
and how that and this student and how his behavior manifests in the school when you're here and not here.
Right.
So we're going to try to come up with a small PD for our team in the next week or so, and then we'll move from there in our next meeting.
Oh, okay, that sounds like a plan.
All right. I think that's it. Thank you, Mrs. Kelly.
Okay, thanks so much, Mr. McDonald. I really appreciate your support. I don't know what I would do without you.